our Young and Single series season 2, I'm going to be talking about define your flight path. If you are new to this channel, here we talk about things that pertain to the young adult and those in the late adolescent phase of life. It's a critical maze and a critical age period where many young people are grappling with decision-making choices and vital, critical life turns. Today we are talking about define your flight path. Many young ones are traveling on this journey called life with no idea of where they are going. When you go to the airport and you are traveling, you would discover that before any plane takes off, there is a flight path. So a plane traveling from West Africa, any nation, to Europe would have a clearly defined flight path. Interestingly, many times the plane may go off the flight path because of the weather, because of turbulence, because of many unforeseen circumstances. But because the flight path has been clearly outlined, there is where he knows he or she flying the plane must follow. Same way, for many young ones, there is a flight path of life that must be clearly defined very early. Sadly, many young ones neglect to define their flight paths. Some do for certain areas of their life, especially career, but others don't. Others go along hoping that one day they will just discover and arrive at their destination without having put in much work. Life doesn't go that way. There must be a clearly defined flight path. And if you are conversant with Newton's law of motion, it says, the first one, that everybody tends to stay at rest or stays in motion unless an external force is applied to it. So for a young person, you can be at rest in a particular place for a long time with no progress in your life until an intentional force is applied to you. So for every plane to overcome the gravitational pull, there is the law of aerodynamics that has to go in place for that flight to take place. So our flight of life for the young ones is the flight in our career, the flight in our love life, the flight in the social life that we want to live, the flight in our material life. But this flight path must be carefully outlined and carefully drawn. When we carefully take our time to study the terrain, know our destination, and outline our flight path, we make better progress and we make better impact, and we arrive in a shorter time. It's also possible that many people miss out on this important flight path drawing or flight path outlining because they don't have priorities in life. And so take an inventory of your priorities. What are your priorities in life? I ran this test with a couple of my tertiary students a few years back, and I found interesting results. You know, when you study Maslow's law, you find out that man has various needs, and these different needs are prioritized differently by different people. So we have the physiological needs, we have also air, water, food, shelter, and clothing. Then we have also safety needs, we have personal needs, we have love and belonging, we have the esteem, we have self-actualization, self-transience. Everybody has a particular need. Now, in order of importance, have you sat down to find out which of these needs really matter to you? I asked 2 young undergrads which kind of job they want to do in future. One chose a particular career path because esteem was not on his priority list. For him, his priority list was making sure that he's comfortable. But for another, esteem was on her priority list. So her career path which will affect her esteem, was so important to her than the other graduates. So there was a graduate who didn't mind being an entrepreneur, setting up canopies, setting up chairs, event management. He didn't even mind becoming an estate agent. He didn't even mind becoming a mobile money vendor. He didn't mind selling food. Another one said, no, I'm not going to do any of those jobs. I want a corporate job. Why? Because of the needs the two different people had prioritized. What are your priorities in life? Many young people have an interesting priority list. And this priority list defines what we put as first, second, third in our life. Now, have you ever considered it for children? Now I'm talking about people in the 4 to 10 year bracket. The most important thing for children are their basic needs: food, shelter, clothing. They don't even look for it. They know they would have it. Once they have their food and a place to stay, it's fine. And for those young ones, another interesting need for them is emotional. Emotional. They want love, they want care, they want acceptance, and spiritual. So, very early when that child is introduced to God, his heart longs for God, he's excited about the things of God, willing to go to Sunday school, very happy anytime things of God are said. But interestingly, when they become teenagers and they become young adults, the priorities change. Suddenly, material needs become priority for many young people. Success, fame, career, what money do I have? Where will I stay? The kind of car I want to have. Then emotional needs, love, acceptance, belonging. Then spiritual needs. So the priorities of the youth in terms of material, emotional, and spiritual needs is reversed. So many young people put God as the last with respect to their needs. And your needs determine every action and inaction that you take. Because if material needs become your driving force, then you are willing to pay any price to go to school, any price to learn a trade, any price to do a business, but you are not willing to invest in your spiritual life. Emotional needs become the second priority. So the kind of girl I want to be with, the kind of guy I want to hang up with, love, and anything that has to do with attention and a sense of belonging. Then God comes in when it looks like I am stranded, things are not going well, and then I need extra help. Then God becomes a factor. Now watch this. When this same young person becomes an old man, 65, 70, suddenly material needs have no place in his or her life because he may have achieved all his goals and dreams. So suddenly, emotional needs also don't have too much of a priority. It becomes spiritual needs because he knows that he's nearing death and wants to secure eternity. So spiritual needs become a priority. Emotional needs because he wants care. His children have gone. There's an empty nest. His wife or the husband may still be there, but they are both old. So emotional needs, attention, love, belonging, and then least is the material needs. Now you see how age and time turns the priorities of our lives around. And these priorities determine the flight path that we choose. When your priorities are not set right early, your flight path will be continually off. When you are reading a compass, it's giving you a direction to a particular place. When you miss the direction, it can move you just 20 degrees away from your flight path, can take you to a completely different nation. Many young people are in nations that they never wanted to be. You know what I mean? He's 20 and he's a father of twins. Yeah, it's a nation of parenthood, and that was not part of the flight path. But that's because he didn't define that flight path early. He didn't prioritize, which was important. His emotional needs went ahead of his spiritual needs, knowing very well he had no material needs. But when spiritual needs are put in first, like we talked in our last episode about that one thing, when God becomes the reason, you find out that your flight path will be in line with where God wants you to get to, and it affects your decision making so clearly. Now, what are some of the things that prevent our flight path from being as intended? Or better still, let me put it this way: what are the gravitational pulls that prevent our airplane, our life airplane, from taking off? Remember, that plane can only take off operating on the law of aerodynamics, because there's a natural law of gravity that wants to keep that young person at rest. There's a law that is pulling you down. Everything you throw up will come down. That's the law of gravity. Now, the law of aerodynamics is the law that counteracts the law of gravity. It means that we now want to move that airplane of our life, move our youthful life into a career path, into a spiritual path, into a destination that is what we have desired, that we have heard from God, that we believe will help us maximize our existence here on earth. But the plane of our life is stranded because there's a gravitational pull. And one of the forces that act on that plane of our life is ignorance. Many young people, because they are immature and very ignorant about life, have very little information, very little knowledge about life. And so ignorance pulls them down and prevents them from following the flight path, from even taking off to fly. Another gravitational pull will be freebies. I call them freebies. Young people want everything to be free for them because they have grown up and they have been dependent on parents for all their needs. They assume that everything will also be available for them even when they are growing. They don't want to transit or move from the dependence to independence fully. They still want to hold on to their parents for certain things. So everything they want must be free. They are not willing to invest money, time into things that will give them the knowledge, the experience, the exposure. They want everything free. At the comfort of their homes, in their rooms, they must have it all together. Lack of requisite skills, lack of capacity, entitlement. They feel they own everything. There are many other gravitational pulls. But all these are limiting the young one from moving in the place God wants him to move, and and preventing him or her from maximizing his or her opportunities. Today I have been talking about defining your flight path, and I have mentioned that your flight path will be a function of the priorities that you have set. And there are 3 areas that you must consider carefully in setting priorities: your emotional needs, material needs, and spiritual needs. If you reinvest these 3, your flight path will take you to a different nation, most likely where you would not want to end up. So, if you have heard me this evening, this morning, wherever you are, whichever nation, whichever time you may be listening to this video, I would want to challenge you. Sit down as a young person and consider carefully which nation, which destination you intend to get to, and draw that flight path carefully. Then outline the gravitational forces that may be pulling you down and preventing you from flying, and find a counteracting force that will help you lift that plane of your life, follow that flight path, and I can assure you, in a few months, in a few years, in just the shortest possible time, you will arrive in that nation that God wants you to get to. I believe it's been another exciting time of learning. Remember, we've been talking about defining your flight path. Thank you once again for watching. My name is Abrahams-Appiah. This has been the Young and Single series, and I know that you have been blessed. Like the video, share the video, leave a comment in the comment section. In case you have questions, you can hit me up personally and I will answer all these questions. God bless you.